Joining me right now is West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morrisey. Great to see you, AG. Thanks very much for being here. What are you expecting next week? Title 42 goes away on December 21st.
Look, I think we're very concerned we're going to get another stream of people flooding across the border. And with it, of course, comes more human trafficking, more deadly fentanyl, more invasion into the heartland. So we've been worried. I mean, this administration is a disaster in terms of how it's handling the border. So this is just going to be another seminal event, going to flood more people in. That means more drugs, more death. And we have to keep educating Americans as to what's going on.
Well, you and the AGs of the country are the last line of defense. How many times have you sued this administration over the border, over the climate change agenda? Where are you now on these lawsuits?
I know we're up in, at least individually and with my colleagues, we're, I think, in the high 20s in terms of original actions. Then we've joined other briefs. You know, we've sued dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And let me tell you, it's not enough. If I had more lawyers, I would be suing them even more frequently, because the reality is this administration violates the rule of law every day, and it's nowhere more evident than what's going on at the border. Maria, just a few weeks ago, I had families of the victims of fentanyl in my office, and they were talking about what was going on, what happened to them personally, and the stream of fentanyl flooding in from China through the border. This is very real. It's killing West Virginians, and it's got to stop.
Well, we're just looking at some stunning video from Sunday in El Paso, and there were 1,000 people who were at the border in El Paso who came across. I mean, these pictures are incredible, and you point to the real threat, and that is all these drugs coming in. Patrick, we want to show our viewers this next disturbing video from Florida, but I want to just warn our viewers before we show it, because this is very uncomfortable to watch. A Florida police officer was left choking and breathless after collapsing from a possible fentanyl exposure because of a traffic stop. She stopped in a vehicle, and over 5,000 fentanyl-related deaths have been reported in Florida so far this year. Patrick, we understand that they had to give her, 3 doses of Narcan, Patrick.
Look, it's unreal, and we pour so much money and time into addressing first responders' needs because they're the ones on the front line. And the saying is, if you touch it, you could die, or one pill kills. And that's what we're seeing right now. And law enforcement needs to have so many different versions of Narcan available just to avoid having first responders and our brave policemen die. It is a serious problem, and I see this, and my heart goes out to all the families of the victims who have died from this.
Dagan, this is so serious. That officer apparently probably just touched it, touched the packaging that the fentanyl was in.
Right, and
it's so potent.
Yeah.
I mean, Maria, as you all know, you touch fentanyl or you have some of it laced, and it could even be through a vaping tool, which we've heard of more and more, and then you're going to die in a very short period of time. So I've been getting out to the schools in West Virginia. We're trying to educate a lot of people because a lot of these kids don't realize the potency of it, and we have to educate people. Meanwhile, though, half the country doesn't even know about it because other than Fox and a few other stations, they're not covering it. So that's why I'm excited for the House to come in, start doing oversight so that everyone in America knows this crisis.
Patrick, growing up in Virginia, it was a story that the national media was happy to cover, the opioid epidemic, particularly in West Virginia, when it was pharmaceutical opioids. And, you know, oh, poor West Virginia, to come into the state and cover it that way, to be able to blame big pharmaceutical companies, and horrific as it was. But now it goes unreported and ignored because it's a problem that's coming from China across our border.
Look, I don't think that the media wants to acknowledge what's going on, because if you have to point fingers at China and the Mexican drug cartels, then all of a sudden, hey, what is Secretary of State Blinken doing? By the way, not nearly enough. What is Mayorkas doing? Well, he should be impeached or fired. And then what's Merrick Garland doing? They're not increasing the number of fentanyl prosecutions. This has been an unmitigated disaster. The only agency I think that's trying in some degree is the DEA, but they need a lot of help. That's why I've called for fentanyl to be listed as a weapon of mass destruction, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of what we need to do.
And I was not looking down on West Virginia. I come from rural Virginia as well, but I know the way the media operates, and I know how they like to,
That's right.
look down their nose at rural America, and that's how they like to cover it, and to use people in these rural communities to push their own narrative.
Yeah, I mean, these are serious issues, AJ. You've been doing as much as you can. What else can you do? You're considering a run now in 2024 against West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. What can you tell us about that?
Well, a couple things. First, I am very seriously looking at the Senate race, and also a lot of people are urging me to look at the governor's race in West Virginia. And I think most West Virginians know that of all the people thinking of running, we have by far the strongest record of taking on the Biden administration and getting big things done for our state. So I am looking very closely at this. And obviously, one of the big issues would be how West Virginia can better defend itself against the fentanyl and the illicit drugs that are coming in. That'll be talked about a lot because the feds have done practically nothing. And this needs to be a major area of attention. So I'm looking at it. I think we need stronger leadership in the Senate and within the state houses. And I think that my record of going after Biden is going to be a big help.
All right, AG, we'll be watching that. Thanks very much for being here this morning.